In this Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has two wishes, that is to join NATO and defeat Russia. If Ukraine can realize these two wishes at the same time, Zelensky will become a godlike existence in Ukraine. In fact, Ukraine's accession to NATO is out of reach for Ukraine. Ukraine first needs the consent of all NATO member states, and needs its own strength to help NATO become stronger. Now Ukraine is obviously not a good choice for NATO. Now, Ukraine's joining NATO is of extraordinary significance to Ukraine, that is to say, Ukraine has a strong backer, or the strong support of many countries such as the United States. Compared with the difficulty of joining NATO, it is more difficult for Ukraine to defeat Russia. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has lasted for more than a year, and Russia has persisted for more than a year on its own, which proves that Russia's strength is not something that Ukraine and its allies can easily compete with. NATO's help to Ukraine has involved all aspects, from weapon assistance, intelligence provision to military combat personnel training, only missing NATO going to the battlefield to fight the Russian army. Even so, Ukraine has yet to make much of a breakthrough this year. Now that the Ukrainian army's counteroffensive is underway, it will take time to answer how the counteroffensive will end. Recently, NATO Secretary General visited Ukraine in person and met with Zelensky. Zelensky also took the opportunity to remind NATO. Then there was news that the NATO Secretary General announced in a high-profile manner, all NATO countries welcome Ukraine and agree to Ukraine's accession. This announcement once again aroused the attention of public opinion. Ukraine's accession to NATO means that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine will escalate into a war between Russia and NATO, and may even escalate into a nuclear war. The outside world is also full of doubts about this announcement. Does NATO really want Ukraine to join, or is it encouraging Ukraine? It is worth noting that the Secretary General of NATO mentioned that all members of NATO have agreed, but before Ukraine joins NATO, Ukraine needs to fulfill a prerequisite, that is, Ukraine must defeat Russia. NATO has set a prerequisite for Ukraine that is difficult to achieve, or if Ukraine cannot complete it, this can also be understood as a tactful rejection of NATO. Ukraine is a very flexible option for NATO. Ukraine joined NATO after defeating Russia, thereby completing NATO's eastward expansion plan. However, relying solely on Ukraine itself, the probability of joining NATO is almost zero. At present, Ukraine has the help of dozens of countries including Poland, the United States, and Germany. However, none of these countries provide aid with the mentality of helping their allies, but hope to bring more benefits to their own country through aiding Ukraine. The United States also wants to use Ukraine to drag Russia down and bring more benefits to its military and economy. Poland wants to return its former land by supporting Ukraine, and may even annex Ukraine. Germany wants to help Ukraine, so as to walk with the United States. It can be seen that these countries behind Ukraine are dominated by their own interests. Even if NATO agrees to allow Ukraine to join, the interests and entanglements involved will be difficult to resolve.